very far journey from Canada. The flight was an hour and 9 minutes. I'm exhausted. But hello, everyone. My name is Kandyce Young, and I work on all things PCI DSS. Most recently, PCI DSS version 4.0.1. So I want to take you on a little bit of journey on PCI DSS, so come with me on that. And I want to invite you to look at it a little bit differently. But before I do, let's just level set here. PCI DSS version 4.0 was released in March 2022. It had over 60 new requirements that I'm sure you guys were so excited to see. It retires on the 31st of December 2024, so that's in just a few months. PCI DSS version 4.0.1 was released, and it includes some minor clarifications made because you, our stakeholders, said, we just don't, this is not quite right. Refine this and change this just a little bit. No new or removed requirements, but we did make a few minor clarifications that you'll want to adopt. Those notable changes are noted in a summary of changes document available on our website. So PCI DSS controls, I like to think of them, they are the foundation for a multi-layered defense-in-depth approach to securing your payment data. And it's really not unlike how we secure our very own homes today and the most valuable assets in our homes, ourselves, our families, our pets possibly, and even maybe some family heirlooms that we may have and we'd like to secure. So we've got doors at our front entrance that we may have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 locks at. We have windows, hallways connecting one bedroom to another. We've got bathrooms that are maybe for communal use. We've got bedrooms that are for individual or a set of defined users. Also, on the perimeter of our homes, sometimes homes have fences so that we've got to define the boundary of our property. And we also have some neighborhoods also have something called a neighborhood watch, where you have other members of the community watching around to make sure to check for incidents in an incident detection or incident prevention type of way. So this is a layered approach to protecting our most critical assets in our home, and we protect our payment data in the very same way. So with the evolution of IoT or Internet of Things and smart devices, and we have new connectivity to inanimate objects where we didn't have it before. I mean, some people have fridges now that you can actually, that are attached to the internet, and you can call upon it and say, hey, I'm out of milk. And then the milk appears at your home. So yes, certainly that's definitely an opportunity for ease of use, and that's certainly very helpful, but that's also more opportunity for you to have to secure those types of, that type of access, and also more opportunities for threat actors to gain access to your valuable assets. But it's this innovation, this type of innovation, and this type of technological advancement that was baked into the future of PCI DSS. So keep this in mind as we go on this journey and we look at this alternative way of thinking of all the different elements of PCI DSS, and keep this defense-in-depth approach in mind. And hopefully, it encourages you, those of you who have not started yet on the new requirements, to start now. So with requirement 1, we have network security controls, and that's the first main difference. Previously, we talked about firewalls, routers, and switches. And network security controls, the use of that term, represents virtualization technologies that we're using in the wild today. So it represents a lot of the innovative ways that organizations are using to scope their environments and segment certain CDE areas from other non-sensitive areas. The use of the DMZ, or DMZ, depending on where you live, that term was removed from the standard, but it certainly remains a best practice. But it was removed because we recognize that there are other ways, other types of technology that can perform this landing zone type technology. We have the use of hypervisors and WAFs that can terminate access and reinitiate access right at a landing zone so that we don't have direct access from the external untrusted networks directly into trusted. And that's actually like physical key entry for your home. How many of you still use a physical key to get into your front door? I mean, a lot of you do, but how many of you also have an app? How many of you use your fingerprint? How many of you also maybe use a PIN entry to get into your home? So it's those types of changes and those variety of ways that we want to make sure that we account for in PCI DSS when adopting those controls. And I will note that we recently published on Monday the Special Interest Group's latest document, PCI DSS Scoping and Segmentation Guidance for Modern Network Architectures, that addresses these very nuanced ways that organizations are scoping and segmenting their environments using this modern network architecture. So that's available in our document library, and you can download that today. Also, we have Lauren Holloway as well as Peter O'Sullivan speaking on infrastructure as code later on today. That is a very viable network security control that organizations are using as well. So requirement 3 in protecting stored account data. In addition to requiring keeping data storage at a minimum and the prohibition of STAD, or storing STAD post-authorization, there is a new control to prevent the copy and relocation of PAN. So we have a variety of remote access technologies that can perform this control. Some virtual desktops have these configurations where you can turn on and off this function for certain roles. But it's like really treasured in your own home. You want to make sure that if you invite a guest and they're able to see that photograph of you in your beautiful teenage years wearing those beautiful braces, they can't copy and take that photo and share it with your work colleagues later on. So you want to make sure that the copy and paste or the ability to take the images out of the sensitive area is prohibited or limited to only those that need to have that function. Also, PCI DSS includes ways to store or to secure stored PAN. Our stakeholders told us that there are a variety of ways that you can enact disk level or partition level encryption, and that it works in new ways now. So in version 4.0.1, a customized approach objective was added to the disk level or partition level encryption requirement to ensure that encrypted PAN is only decrypted if there is a legitimate need to do so. So that means you only have access to PAN or unencrypted PAN. The amount that you need is relative to the job that you're performing. So this control, or this addition of the customized approach objective, represents the ways that, or the evolution of protection for our stored critical assets. Protection of PAN in transit is an important aspect of PCI DSS, another layer added on. So there's a requirement for certificates stored to protect PAN in transit are confirmed as valid, not revoked, and not expired. And verifying that these certificates are trusted helps ensure the integrity of the secure connection. So be sure to confirm with your development and look at the secure code to ensure that the client and server connection, that it terminates if that certificate is bad. It's important to make sure when you have a guest at your home to make sure if you invite them to go to the bathroom, that they are not also going to your bedroom. So they are only in your bedroom if they are authorized to do so. Anti-phishing protections were added in requirements 5 and 12 because, well, if you review any of the major breaches, let's say in the last 6 months, social engineering tactics were certainly used by threat actors to gain unauthorized access to your systems. I mean, a good example at home is someone knocks on your door. Let's say a telecom sales agent knocks on your door and says, hey, what telecom service are you using? How many different services do you have and how much are you paying? I know a lot of people in this audience would just jump and say, oh my gosh, how much are you paying? Because maybe it's a potential they can give you a better offer. And if the telecom agent says, hey, I'll give you a cheaper deal, you would rush to give them the information about the telecom services you're using. I certainly know my husband was quite willing to do that when a telecom agent came to our door. So it's important that you make sure that you verify that person that is requesting this valuable information from you. PCI DSS does that in 2 ways for phishing protection. A technical mechanism to make sure that there's an automated mechanism to detect and protect against phishing attacks. Now, this automated mechanism may be something that you enact on your email server, but that does not bring your email server directly into scope. Make sure it's the mechanism itself that must be assessed and correctly implemented. The second aspect that PCI DSS is enacted to protect against phishing is awareness. So it's important that in your security awareness training, there is a phishing protection component to that, because your staff need to be trained and aware. You cannot leave it up to that one staff member that may potentially click on the link to win them that $1 million. Don't let that one click be the reason why your system is compromised. That's a single point of failure, and we need to enact a defense-in-depth approach, and this is what PCI DSS supports. Now, Requirement 6 introduced security controls for very, very common e-commerce skimming attacks, and they are plaguing merchants at alarming rates. We know this. Why? Well, because the data tells us this. We're seeing a lot of reports, even in the vendor showcase, they're publishing reports about the heightened rates of e-commerce skimming attacks. Technological advancements are showing us this. Very new controls that have the ability to override a lot of common controls. And our stakeholders, like those of you, have told us that e-commerce skimming is certainly plaguing your environment. So PCI DSS has added ways to support this. Artificial intelligence certainly has the ability to generate a lot of malicious code quickly, and that certainly is a threat. So imagine, go with me here, you're at a party, or you are hosting your own party actually, and all of the people here at this table represent individual scripts sitting at your party or on your payment page. And ultimately, these new payment page controls are intended to monitor each of the script traffic or monitor each of the movements of these people at this table, make sure that everyone at this table is supposed to be there, that they're authorized and they should be at that table, and make sure that the integrity of these scripts is maintained. So the script that is sent is the script that is actually on your payment page, rendered, and should be there. And if someone appears at your table that shouldn't be there, for example, a script that shouldn't be on your payment page, that an alert is automatically generated so you can act swiftly. I think this is why doorbell cameras or motion sensors in the home are so popular as well, because you can see in real time who is at your door, who is at your home. You have the ability to speak to that person and verify their authenticity, and then you can reject them and not let them into your home if you'd like. But let's get back to this dinner party. So you're hosting this dinner party and you have a very strict guest list. So only certain people can attend. Why? Because you have a guest of honor coming to your home. Who is this guest of honor? Your customer's payment data. And you want to make sure that everyone that is at that party should be there and should be mingling with that special guest. These new controls, these new payment page controls, aim to prevent this from happening at your party. We all know that we have these people that we don't want to invite. You know, a friend of a friend invites somebody to your party, or that family member that you think, oh, they really wouldn't be a good idea to have them mix and mingle with this particular group. So you want to prevent the wrong people or the wrong scripts from getting into your home and mingling with your very special guests, which would be your customer's payment page details. These controls take a defense-in-depth approach so that these guest lists and the scripts are addressed and protected at every angle. And if the wrong people do get into the party, you can act efficiently and get them out of there right away. As I speak of these different things, I really hope you're able to see how these new security controls are building the different layers of your security posture. We do have more security controls around strong access controls measures, particularly around system and application accounts, as well as more controls around physical access to cardholder data in Requirements 7 and 9. But one thing I would like to point out here in Requirement 10, we've got automating your log reviews, which may seem like a simple, mundane thing, but certainly it's important that you've got to make sure that you have proper log baselines. Because imagine, every time you're at home and your motion sensor goes off in the backyard, the light goes on, you've got to physically get up and go check to see if it's an animal eating through your garden yet again. Set those log baseline parameters. Document activity that's happening in your environment and the regular activity so that you can set alerts for only those at that type of activity that seems malicious or anomalous. And I say this to you because according to the latest global reports, it takes a mean time of at least over 200 days to really for an organization to see if there's been a compromise or for threat actors in their environment. So establishing these strong log baselines and establishing key ways that you can define or notice malicious activity in your environment, that's really a key way to help make sure that your system is running efficiently and free from malicious actors. A part of any dynamic security, strong, robust security program is managing vulnerabilities. And we know that a strong vulnerability and threat management program is certainly a key aspect to making sure that your threat posture remains strong. Requirement 11 added a control for authenticated internal scanning. That means you're logging into the system using credentials to see what's going on inside of that system, to see if there's any configuration issues or misconfigurations. You're finding more vulnerabilities like password policy violations, business or internal logic flaws that may be potentially used by a threat actor if they gain access to those systems. These authenticated internal scans are not just picking up what's detectable from the system's surface or the general infrastructure. You're going into the system directly to find those vulnerabilities. It's like if you're assessing your home for security, you want to make sure that nobody's got in there, or if there has been a flood or something and you want to check. Those authenticated scans would be opening each of those bedrooms' doors to see if potentially a window was open, or if, let's say, you have a pest-eating problem that's getting through the rug. And just the regular unauthenticated scan is just looking at the bedroom door and saying, yep, everything's okay. So we want to make sure that authenticated internal scanning is implemented in your environment and gives you a better idea of your threat landscape that you're dealing with. But be prepared, though, because if you haven't started authenticated internal scanning, you may see just a few more vulnerabilities on those regular reports. The 3 ways of flexibility that PCI DSS is offering that I wanted to point out to you. The first is, there's a new requirement that mandates an inventory of cryptographic cipher suites and protocols. And this supports cryptographic agility in organizations, and it helps with preparedness for algorithm deprecation. It actually would be helpful in the age of quantum computing, let's say, when there's traditional algorithms become more easily exploitable. This implementation of this control will separate organizations that have stronger agility and that will be able to implement and update much quicker from those organizations that cannot do that. Stakeholders also told us they wanted more flexibility. They wanted to be able to implement PCI DSS controls in ways that were more suitable for the risk posture of their environments. So targeted risk analyses were introduced, as well as customized approach. Targeted risk analyses to determine how often to perform an activity really supports nuanced hybrid types of environments. And we often get asked, well, can I perform a TRA for a requirement that has a defined frequency that I don't want to meet? Well, no. Targeted risk analyses are only required in requirements that specifically require their completion. In other words, if the requirement states to do a TRA to determine a frequency, then you do that. If the requirement doesn't state to do a TRA, then you don't do a TRA and you meet that defined frequency as stated. Customized approach really helps to support the use of modern network architecture by allowing organizations to meet the intent of PCI DSS requirements, or the customized approach objective, which is the true reason for that requirement. I actually like to use the customized approach objective, that little statement just below the defined requirement, to really as a cheat sheet to understand what that requirement is intending to do and how that requirement is intending to support the security posture of that environment. It's like when you're choosing your home and you want to choose where you want to live, you have to take a look at a variety of different factors. Is there a fire station nearby? Is there a hospital nearby? Is there a grocery store nearby? All of those different factors may even increase the cost of your home, but it also increases all the different things that you've got to consider when you're choosing your new home. So we know with third-party service providers, relationship management is certainly key. When you purchase a product from a service provider, they have to ensure that they provide those quality products and they maintain true as advertised. But also beyond that, you may not necessarily know some of the different features and some of the different things that they may potentially, the responsibilities that they may have. The standard really represents the growing reflection or the growing need to have these third-party service provider relationships be strengthened. There is a new requirement that third-party service providers must support their customers' requests for PCI DSS requirements. It's like when you're choosing the right insurer for your home, you've got to know, what is my insurer going to cover? What do I have to cover in the event of a flood? And you want to make sure you know that before the flood occurs so that you can choose the right insurance provider. So I think I've captured really all of the main bits. Stored account data, data in transit, new payment page scripts, authenticated internal scanning. I think that's it. I don't think anyone really asks us much about anything else. Multi-factor authentication, maybe? Does anybody have any questions about that? Certainly. There's a new requirement for multi-factor authentication for all non-console access into the CDE. Also a new requirement that mandates strong, properly configured MFA solutions to support that MFA access. But in PCI DSS version 4.0.1, there's an applicability note that was added. And I think it's important to state because when we put out PCI DSS version 4.0, we were told, hey, there are other ways to meet multi-factor authentication requirements, and the Council needs to consider those. So we added an applicability note to the requirement for all non-console access into the CDE. And this is actually an example of that. So MFA for all non-console access into the CDE, if or unless there are user accounts being authenticated using phishing-resistant authentication. So what is that? Well, an example of that would be the use of FIDO2. And though I'm not able to get into that this moment, but Andrew Jameson, who just spoke, he's actually having a presentation with the FIDO Alliance and Okta tomorrow to get into detail about the benefits of phishing-resistant authentication and how it supports a strong environment. So I recommend that you have a look and go in there. It's called Safeguarding Your Boat So You Don't Get Hooked. Overall, I think the most important things to do to prepare you for PCI DSS version 4.0.1 is, well, first, read the summary of changes documents we have available on our website. You get started on strengthening your security posture right now, because I really consider, securing this data not like securing your customer's data or securing your client's customer's data. This is payment data, so ultimately, it's all of our data, and we all share in the responsibility to protect each of these payment environments. So we know the risks, and PCI DSS has the tools to help your organizations better protect your environments. So why not get started now? We know March 31st, 2025 is certainly right around the corner. But yes, and this is a compliance effort, but above all, this is a security effort. And it's important to keep security first in all of our practices. So PCI DSS version 4.0.1 is right this way. So be part of the group that's taking the lead and get started now. Thank you.